So for 10 years, we did a weekly podcast. And we started out with 3 episodes in 2014, and then we did one every week, rain or shine, on the niche of government contracting. And we provided, the concept behind it was provide content they can do something with. And so our niche was, we wanted to share content that, because for some context, I'm a former contracting officer. And for those of you who don't work in government, that's somebody who signs government contracts. So I spent half of my career doing this. So we understand what it's like to buy stuff and spend our tax dollars, all the rules behind that. Now we're on the contractor side, and the idea is to help people understand both sides. That was the puzzle I was trying to solve. That's what my company does, was we help people understand both sides. In fact, we're named after the Skyway Bridge down here in Tampa Bay because we want to be a bridge between both sides. So that was the idea behind the podcast. It was working. We had 10,000 downloads, then 100,000 downloads, then 1 million downloads, then 1.5 million downloads, all the time over 10 years, every week. We put out a podcast episode, hit like, I think almost 350 or so before I realized we weren't getting a lot of customers from this. We got a few, I could correlate. People would tell me, hey, your podcast is great. I'd like to get your help, et cetera. But it wasn't driving a whole lot of customers. And because we're so niche, this isn't something that everybody cares about. The challenge of getting sponsors was pretty difficult. We could get a few here and there, but it wasn't enough to really monetize the podcast. And so I took a little bit of a break at about episode 380 and thought, okay, well, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. What do we change? And so I started talking to our subscribers. And it turns out that a lot of them, like dozens of them, were using our content. And it was so rich and so deep that it was solving their problem. And I realized, I didn't realize the best thing that we have, we're giving away for free. It's a terrible business model. But if you don't know that, you're like, well, it's supposed to be a lead generator. It's supposed to get us to the deeper stuff. But because we have such good content, and that sounded arrogant to say, but because it's so valuable to our listeners, I realized, you know what, I need to change something. So I thought about, let's try charging for it. And sure enough, when I told our subscribers, which there were probably, a couple thousand of them, they were a hardcore listen every week. And before we even officially moved over, 3 of them signed up. That was my validation, is like, if we get 10 people to sign up for this, then this is a better way to go. Well, fast forward, I think that was episode 400 when we started charging for them, and we're now at 510, and we do one every week. So it's been a couple of years, and now we get a new paid subscriber probably every couple of days. And it was a hard decision because the podcast, I always thought it was free. And the idea was it was supposed to leads to us, but that's not what was happening. And so we had to, again, you had to pivot. But it was also, here's the other side. If you look, I laugh at this now. If you look up on our iTunes or Apple podcast, we had a 5-star reviews for 10 years until we started charging for it. We have multiple 1-star reviews that say, this was a great podcast, and still until they started charging for it, which tells me they just don't want to pay for it. It didn't tell me it's a bad podcast, but you got to be ready for that. That was a big change that I knew was kind of worth the risk. But from a business perspective, I realized, well, if we lose half of our listeners because we start charging for it, they're still paying us the same amount of money, 0. So this is at least worth trying. And so that 3 months when I took a hiatus, that was a hard decision of like, do we keep doing this and charge for it? Or do we hope that suddenly after 10 years, the 11th year is when they're going to start, kind of calling us. And so it was helpful.
I'm wondering how you started charging, and how much, and if it's changed along the way.
So we started with $20 a month, and then we increased it after a month because I realized that when you consider the value that folks are getting out of this, they're half-hour podcast episodes. They're the equivalent of a course, right? And then we ended up pushing the price up to $49 a month, and then we do promo codes here and there. And so the sticker price on our website is $49 a month, and it sells for that. But then we do promo codes to be able to tell where the marketing is coming from. Or I'm doing a special right now because, again, if you're watching the news, government contracting is in a weird space. Government is in a transition period, right? There's a lot going on. So we're actually offering a discount to folks to help during this weird time. But to answer your question, we started at 20, realized that's, and I told people, this is what I don't know what to charge for this. I've never done this before. So I started at 20 and said, well, let's see where it goes. And then we ended up it's currently at 49.
Okay. And if we've got a listener who's thinking, maybe I'm giving away too much free content. Maybe it's so good that I'm losing clients and they want to do what you've done